Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. As you know, my name is Zenzi Sewa, and this is Spiritual Infinity. And my guest today is Kristine Genovese, and she is here to talk about men's trauma. As you know, I'm doing this series because a lot of our men keep things in because they are supposed to be macho, they don't talk, and they hold a lot of things that is causing the men's suicide rate to increase. And they have the highest usage of substance abuse. So there are things going on that we need as a people to stand up and say, how can we help our men and how can we turn this around? And this is what my guest today, Kristine, how are you?
Oh, I am so delighted to be here with you today and to talk about this subject.
I know it's painful. It's a
It
painful.
is. It is.
Can you tell our viewers where you're speaking from?
Sure. I'm actually coming to you from Tampa, Florida.
Okay. And I take it like London. I say like London. Our weather is beautiful at the moment.
Well, it is very hot and humid in Florida at this time of year, but I'll take that over having to deal with all of the winter nasties.
Yes. Well, tomorrow it's going to be 35. The day after it's going to be 37. So we're going hot, hot, hot. So, Kristine, tell us how you came about to work with men and their trauma.
Well, it's interesting. My background, I actually was a corporate turnaround specialist, like revenue and turnaround specialist for most of my career. So most of my career, I operated in corporate America, surrounded by men. So much so that I tried to act like a man, be like a man, suppressed my own femininity for a lot of years because I grew up during a period where, the glass ceiling really existed. I probably still have cuts on my head, And so I really always wanted to be one of the guys. And I would get the sports statistics and make sure I knew what was going on. And I used to see being a woman as weak. And I actually suppressed all of my energy and emotion so much that I wound up giving myself a cervical cancer scare at one point. Ouch. Yeah, so I personally was so masculine and devalued being a woman so much that I had to go on my own healing journey. And I'm happy to unpack that piece if you'd like. But talking about men's trauma in particular, using my soul intelligence method, which I'm sure we'll get into in a minute, it's really getting to the underlying emotional root cause of all dis-ease in the body. Yeah. I work with a lot of men. Probably my practice is about 50-50, to be honest. Men and women. Yeah. And it's because it affects everyone, right? Not being able to manage emotions, show emotion, suppressing emotion. When we do that in the physical body, it tends to cause dis-ease, dysfunction, or dissonance in your frequency. And you start to notice it because something doesn't feel right. Usually by the time it's in the physical and it showed up in your physical body, it's been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the trauma that I see that men hold really comes from childhood in particular. And I put together, an article not too long ago that talks about the childhood wounds that are really running our life and how to clear them energetically. And I'm going to go through those because I want, your male listeners as well as your female listeners to go, wait a minute, that sounds like me. Or not, right? And kind of have an understanding of what those things are. The short version of my own healing journey with respect to the cervical cancer that I referenced was one of the things I want people to understand and remember is that once energy is created, it's a scientific law that it can't be destroyed. Okay, it has to go somewhere. And so when we suppress our emotions, which men in particular are very gifted at, everything's fine, we're just going to handle it, we're going to push it away, it starts to pool in the body. So I mentioned to you I suppressed my femininity and it attacked my cervix. The reason why is that is our womb space. That is where we birth babies and businesses. And so I was suppressing my femininity, so it went to the seat of womanhood.
Yeah, this is what your femininity. Yes.
So let's think about what that does in a man. One of the reasons prostate cancer is so prevalent in retired men is because they have lost their sense of purpose. And that's where the energy goes. That's right.
Their masculinity.
Absolutely. It goes right to the prostate. And so the reason why it tends to happen to retired men is because they're not out, hunting and gathering and doing the man things, contributing the way they used to. So they don't really know where to go with that. So it's really kind of fascinating when you start looking at, the underlying energetic root cause to what's going wrong in the body. Now, I was lucky. When this all came about for me as just, going to a normal OBGYN, and just getting a checkup, to where she told me that there were too many bad cells, that, I had an abnormal pap. I need to come into the office to have a copal procedure. Well, they examined all those cells and said, there's too many of them. We're going to have to do a conical biopsy. I'm like, a what? We're going to put you into the hospital and we have to put you under and we're going to cut your cervix. I'm like, why? Biopsy? They said, because there's cancerous cells there and there's too many of them. So that's a shock, right? Anybody gets a diagnosis of cancer, it really wakes you up and slaps you in the face. So I went to, all kinds of people. I went to regular doctors. I went to healers. I went to energetic acupuncturist. I went to someone that I knew did Reiki. I went to someone who was a massage therapist. I even went to a psychic. And that woman told me, she said, well, the reason this occurred is because you're not in touch with your divine feminine. So at the time I was like, well, what the heck does that mean? Right? Do I need to grow my hair long? Do I have to wear flowy dresses? Do I have to dance? What do you mean? I'm not judging. This is a relatively new term, right? So I realized that I had devalued myself as a woman for so long and tried to push that down for so long that the energy, had to pull in the cervix. So what I did is I did everything. I started to research incredibly strong female leaders and historical figures, like going all the way back to Egypt, like ancient Egypt, Sekhmet, the lion head as goddess, probably because of my crazy hair, or Margaret Thatcher, who was an incredible leader and thought leader and strong, powerful woman, right? I researched these people. So I was stimulating my mental side of it and embracing, wow, women are strong and powerful, and then I started to look at the emotional side of things, how I had pushed all of that energy down. And so I started to talk to my body and I started to say, you know what? I appreciate you waking me up. I'm healthy. I am vibrating. I'm making sure that my cells are going to vibrate at a high level, and we're going to shift this. So I did the mental work. I did the emotional work. And then I showed up for the operation, right? And so I did go through the procedure. And I did have a friend tell me before I went in, she goes, you know what? By the time you go in, it's going to be gone. I go, you're right. It is going to be gone. So I will never forget the look on the OBGYN's face when she came out and she said, we must have cut it all out because it's gone. I'm like, well, we must have. So was it, was it the physical?
Did she make any cuts at all?
Oh, yes, she did. She did.
Okay.
She did cut the cervix. But, so the interesting thing is I needed to work on that mentally, emotionally, and physically. And so when we start talking about, men's health and what affects men, really what affects all of us, is when we are in our most formative years as children, we have, two role models in that household, if we're lucky, sometimes unlucky, depending on the role models, but, a male and female role model. Some of us only get one. And, sometimes, men do their very best to look successful on the outside, but inside something's off. Maybe you love deeply, but you struggle with the boundaries, or you overgive or overthink or overperform. or you're exhausted or anxious or disconnected and you can't explain why. Well, that's not weakness, it's wiring. You know, most of us live from nervous system patterns that we formed in childhood, and they were patterns we developed to help us survive, not thrive. And unless we clear them at the energetic level, they quietly run our adult lives. So there's 7 of them. You want to take a quick quiz and see how many you get?
Please.
Okay. All right. So the first one is abandonment. So safety felt really inconsistent. Love felt uncertain. You know, loss was kind of familiar. And as a child, you learned people leave, either emotionally or physically. So what does that do to you as an adult? You might cling or overgive or detach or leave first, right? Because you don't want to get hurt. And your nervous system learned that closeness wasn't safe. So that's number 1. Number 2 is emotional neglect. Your inner world went unseen. So you learned to self-soothe, like take care of yourself a little too early because your needs felt inconvenient. So as an adult, you struggle to ask for help and you often feel lonely even when you are in connection with someone. So your nervous system learned that your needs weren't safe to express. How about conditional love? I think most of us know pretty much what this one was, right? Love was based on behavior, usually good behavior. Approval had to be earned. You might have become afraid to fail. Mistakes were unsafe. So as an adult, you might people please or overwork or be a perfectionist because you fear disappointing others.
Yeah.
And love always felt like something that had to be deserved. The next one, number 4, is chaos or instability. Your home was really emotionally unpredictable. So calm felt unfamiliar. So you were constantly on high alert, right? Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, whatever I need to do. And as an adult, you often confuse an intensity in a relationship with connection. And when things are peaceful and calm, you confuse that with boredom because your body learned chaos was normal. And that is actually one of the key reasons you brought up addiction, where that shows up for men a lot. 5 is criticism or shame. You know, mistakes felt dangerous. Encouragement was really rare and support was limited. So as an adult, you do chase perfectionism because you've got this constant inner critic telling you whatever you're doing is not good enough. And that voice isn't motivation, that is memory. The next one is emotional enmeshment. So you carried your adult emotions around as a kid. So you became the fixer and your needs came last. So as an adult, you attract emotionally unavailable people and you struggle with boundaries because love meant losing yourself. If they're okay, you're okay. If they're not okay, you're not okay. And most of the time, they probably were not okay.
Yeah. What's good for them is good for you.
Exactly. And then the last one, yes, for sure. And then the last one is lack of safety. And that was, you know, protection was missing. So you had to be on hyper alert and that became normal. So resting felt risky. So as an adult, you struggled to relax or trust or soften because your nervous system never learned safety and that it was okay to not have to constantly move. So just remembering that you're not broken, you're conditioned. So how did you do? Did you get a perfect score, 7 out of 7? Or did a few jump out at you in particular?
I think a few may have jumped out.
Good, good. Well, what I want people to remember is you're not broken. You're not too sensitive. You're not a hot mess. You adapted. So your nervous system did exactly what it was designed to do, to keep you, alive at the time. And so now what is the most important thing for all of us, men and women, to do is to regulate our nervous system. Most people operate on fight or flight or freeze or fawn all day long. Even just the text messages going off on the phone, constantly having, messages bombard you. It puts you like, oh, that person's called. Oh, I got to get to this. Oh, I have to do that. Like we are on high alert most of the time.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yes.
when that happens, what it does is it lowers our body's immune system. Okay. Our immune system is constantly getting tapped every time the nervous system goes into fight, flight, or freeze. And so that lowers our body's immune response and our ability to fight dis-ease or dysfunction or dissonance off. And that's one of the reasons why we have such a huge healthcare crisis in the world.
Yeah. You're
It's stress.
absolutely right. It's,
It
yeah,
is stress. Yeah.
because of the way our society has become and the way we're living, it's extremely stressful. No wonder we're in out of balance. And while health wise, as much as we've got more variety, but is it quality? And what we're doing, no.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's a little bit about where I think, in particular, we all kind of get hit, right? And we condition ourselves. And it's interesting when I look at my own personal relationships, I chose emotionally unavailable men because I grew up with an alcoholic father. And so I was used to not only, having to meet expectations, but exceed expectations. So that self-limiting belief, of not being good enough served me really well in corporate America. I was always getting raises and promoted and meeting and exceeding expectations. But where it was not good for me was in my interpersonal life.
Yes.
Because I chose men who would underdo so I could overdo. And then I'm upset that I'm not a priority. I'm not even on the list, let alone a thought, right? And then I realize I did it.
Them. Yeah, you chose them. You chose the lower level rather than the higher level.
Exactly. So when we start looking at, there's toxic masculinity and toxic femininity, and we all have masculine and feminine within us, right? And what we're all striving for, I hope, is to embody the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And what that means to me is when a woman feels safe, she is free to create within that divine masculine container. And the divine masculine is supposed to provide the safety so she feels comfortable to be vulnerable and can create. That works in reverse as well. A man has to feel safe and loved and protected by his woman in his life in order to be vulnerable and share those emotions that we say we want to hear.
Now, that's very interesting because speaking to my previous guest, it's the same thing. The man needed to feel appreciated. The man needed to feel loved. The man needed to feel wanted. And like everything else, I said like everything else, it's like a woman. When you get those things that make you happy, you then bring down your guard. And as you say, you do feel safe that you can speak it out. You do feel safe that your vulnerability, the things that are not making you happy, you can talk about it because you feel safe to talk about it.
Absolutely. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? I think we sort of have this image of what masculinity is and femininity is. And when somebody doesn't fit in that mold, then they don't know what to do with themselves or their emotions.
Yeah.
Right?
No, absolutely. And
Yeah.
especially our men, because they're told, we brought them up really not to have emotions because they're men. Men don't show emotions. It's only the women that show emotions. Men don't talk about their feelings. It's only the women that talk about their feelings. Men don't get upset. It's only the women that get upset, But men do have all those things as well because they're human.
Yeah. And I think, yeah. And so what happens when a man is not emotionally supported? Let's just start with that. Okay. Even a woman, when they're not emotionally supported, they're going to look for support elsewhere. So they may stray outside the relationship. Or they might try and mask the feelings that they don't feel supported with addictions like drugs or alcohol, right? Because they don't want to feel those feelings. Like, I'm not getting the love that I need here, so I'm just going to numb myself so I don't have to feel unloved. That's one outlet. Another outlet is, I'm not getting the love that I need here, so I'm going to go find it somewhere else. That's another outlet. So when you think about, why men might turn to addiction or why men might stray from a relationship, it's usually because they don't feel loved or supported. And it's the same thing for a female, but it's more on the emotional side for a female than it is the actual physical side.
I'm wanting to ask you a question because you work with men.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put this question to you, and I'm hoping you can answer it with the knowledge that you have working with men. Two things you mentioned: they either do the drugs or other abuses, or they go outside of their marriage, their relationship.
Absolutely.
Have you found that if it's drugs or abuse, is it because they deeply love and they don't want to go out and they want to hold on to that relationship, so they go that way? And then when they don't feel they love or they really want that partner or in line with that partner, they then go the other way of looking outside the marriage. Maybe they feel they're not suited really, and they've come to some kind of realization, and then they go outside the marriage. Because as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking,
that's the most common. I would say yes, that is the most common on what I've seen. Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, if you really love somebody, you really don't want to leave that relationship. You don't want to end that relationship, and you're trying to hold on to that relationship. So I can see where the abuse comes in. But if you don't feel loved, or you don't feel you really love that person, or you think that's a bad relationship and it's not going anywhere, you go outside.
Yeah, that's the most common of what I've seen. And sometimes men stay in the relationship because they feel obligated, right? Maybe there's children involved, right? And so they stay because they feel like it's what they should do or the right thing to do, not necessarily that they have that deep love. Yeah. And so they try and self-soothe, self-medicate.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that love makes you stay, but obligation also makes you stay.
Correct. It's usually one of those things.
Yeah. When there's no real obligation and you just feel this enough is enough, you can then go outside and then start doing things. Yeah. So
and there's other forms, right? There's other forms of, addiction. People talk about porn and things like that now, and what prevalent it is. It's an escape of some kind, And then the third way that I've seen it happen is they escape to another activity. So whether that's, guys' card night, or I play football, or I, join a tennis league or golf league, like it's something to leave, to have an escape, as opposed to having to stay present. Now, I can also see that as a healthy outlet, because a lot of times when I'm working with men, I'm like, look, you need alone time, you need guy time, you need couple time, you need family time, you need a balance, right? Yeah. And I think what happens a lot in marriages is, or relationships anyway, that they tend to, do more things out of obligation, and we tend to forget about the balance in our lives, right? And usually that's where the resentment builds. That we've thrown it all into the kids and the family, or all into, work. And we forget to balance our lives, because everybody needs that spiritual time, that alone time, right? To regroup and connect, And I think when we start ignoring our other needs is when that starts to build.
But people need to have a me time where they can disconnect, sit somewhere quietly, or do something that can help to re-energize them, And then through that re-energizing, it's rebalancing so they can go back and continue. Yeah, you need that you time. That's something for them.
Yeah. Another reaction that I see a lot too is men chasing love. So a lot of times I see that in a father-daughter relationship, you know, overdoing and doing so much for the children because they're chasing their love, because there's something that they feel like they don't deserve it, so they overdo. A lot of times to try and, you know, keep them connected. And as opposed to, look, spending time with you and having an experience with you, being with you is enough. It doesn't have to come at you're throwing this much materialism at someone. But that's another common kind of reaction, especially if they've chosen to separate in a long-term relationship. You know, you always get the overdoing, you know, parent.
Yes.
The dad overdoes to keep
win
them
back that authority, that caring towards them, and that they feel that they're still loved and cared for. Yeah. Oh, that's understandable. That is understandable. So, Kristine,
Yes.
working with men, what is the most because you said 50% of your clients are women, 50% of your clients are men. Working with men, what is the most common reason for their pain? Or maybe one or two common reasons for their pain.
Well, again, you know, we kind of went through a lot of those childhood wounds. So they apply to everybody, you know. Why did they choose the partner? So if we look at, you know, each of us, typically the person we spend our long-term relationship with is either the parent we had a great relationship with and we want to recreate it, or the parent we had the most difficult relationship with and we want to try and repair it and fix it. So when we start looking at that, you know, sometimes men marry their moms, you know, right? So that could be a good thing or a bad thing. You know, it depends on what the relationship dynamic is. Sometimes they think they've married their best friend, and over time, the woman gets so used to mothering the children, she mothers the husband, and that takes the romance out of the relationship. So it's kind of like you've got to look at the different roles that are at play when you're working with men. And when those wounds occurred. So one of the cool things about my method, the soul intelligence method, is I really get to the underlying cause of either the trauma, the self-limiting belief, the pattern, you know, what are those wounds, those emotions we carry? Because one of the things that people need to remember is everyone and everything is energy. It's all energy, it's all frequency. And even Einstein said the future of medicine is frequency. Wish I had said that, but he did. So that's a great platform to stand on. But it's the only way we're seeing each other right now. It is an energy and frequency transfer for the computer to be able to interpret what's going on. And I think people forget that. They get stuff streamed on their phones all the time. Well, how does that magically appear? It's energy and frequency. You know, you and I are physical, we're corporal, so we forget that we're energy and frequency. And so energy can get trapped in people, places, or things, just like you can get trapped in your, you know, your physical body, your mental body, and your emotional body. It's where we store everything. And it's really fascinating, you know, when you start studying quantum physics and how the body works and why, you know, you hold those different conditions in your body if you don't move them through. So my method actually figures out what are those underlying root causes that are causing you to feel the way you feel physically, mentally, and emotionally. And we're able to shift those out because our subconscious mind is running the show 95% of the time. Believe it or not, all of that strategizing, figuring, calculating, that's 5% of the mind. That's it. Do you believe that? And how much time we spend up here? So our brain only has a 2-foot wide energy field around it. Our heart has a 6-foot wide energy field around it. That heart is a toroidal field. It actually spreads that far out. And the Heart Math Institute has measured it and studied it for more than 25 years. So it is, as much as, we were told in corporate America to suppress your emotions. You're never supposed to cry, show any emotion. Emotion is the secret. And emotion is supposed to be energy in motion. And when emotion is stuck, it starts to pool in the body. And that's when something manifests in the physical.
Yeah, and that's when we start to become ill, because
Absolutely.
the stagnation of energy. Energy is not flowing, and energy is supposed to flow and flow with balance and ease. When it doesn't, we have problems. So, Christina, what then, when you're working with the men, and you've talked about the energy, what is their response to that, and how do they incorporate that or take heed of that guidance from you?
When I tell them what?
When,
What's really going on?
when you're working with men, and now
Mhm.
you're bringing up about the energy and about that change of energy, how do they respond to that, and how do they incorporate that within them? Because
So,
I know with women, we're always talking, and we're used to talking and seeing things and trying. But men can be. Do you find men can be a bit stubborn, or resistant, or do you find that they are accepting of what you say and willing to try and change?
yeah, typically when somebody gets to me, I'm kind of like the last stop on the magical mystery tour, like I've tried everything else, so now I'm coming to you.
No, everything else doesn't work. Let me try you. Energy. This is what I'm
Yeah,
saying. How do they respond to that? I don't
yeah.
know. So women, we talk and we try. But men is like, really?
So, sometimes they're there, with a skeptical eye initially. But the cool thing about my method is all somebody has to do is to show up to the Zoom call. That's it. Once they're there, they're going to receive. And I'm going to ask for whatever needs to shift in their best and highest good. And then typically they're like, wow, I feel better. A lot of times they'll feel something shifting in their bodies. Even the most obtuse guy is going to feel typically tired after a session, because the way I describe it to him is, look, you go to a chiropractor for a biomechanical adjustment, right? To straighten out the bones so they're not pinching any nerves. And so you get blood flowing and energy flowing properly through your body. You come to me for a bioenergetic adjustment. And I'm able to shift what's actually holding that part of the spine in place and making you uncomfortable. And once we do that, then we can, give you, nutraceuticals, healthy, supplements and shakes and things like that to help your body give it what it needs so it can heal completely. So when I work with a man, I've had some guys who were skeptical at first, and then they see the changes, and I go, okay, we'll get together for a couple of sessions. And then I say, okay, so what shifted? What doesn't trigger you anymore? Fascinating. How your wife is behaving differently towards you, and you didn't do anything differently. I remember I had a session with a doctor, and he was like, my wife was always meddling, in the business, and it was like making our relationship uncomfortable. But, she did the accounting pieces for me, and, as far as a medical practice goes. And he said, but it's really affecting our relationship. And I said, okay, well, let me do a session for you, which I did. We shifted a whole bunch of things. The very next day, he sent me a text and he goes, oh my gosh, my wife never spoke to me so kindly as she did last night. What did you do? How did this happen? I said, listen, you feel different to her. Your energy has shifted. You're not reacting the same way. Maybe you're responding differently, or you were more open and vulnerable, so she was able to have that discussion you seek. Right? So it's usually not necessarily during the session, and this is for anyone. It's usually after we do a session that you start to go, isn't that fascinating? Isn't that interesting? But sometimes when I'm working with people who are presenting really dramatic physical, symptoms. For example, I had a man, and it's actually his wife. You asked, how do people find me? And the guys, she drug him like to a session. She's like, okay, we've tried everything else. We're going to try this. So he was very skeptical. Okay. And this was a man that, had been a veteran, and he was on oxygen. Okay. So he had like a nasal cannula in when we first started the session. He was restricted to a recliner. I could see he was pale and in pain and uncomfortable, okay, as he was sitting in front of the laptop. And, she said, both of them told me that he had been in and out of hospitals for years, and that he has this incredible uncomfortable pain, kind of between his abdomen and his stomach, the thoracic kind of area, okay? And so no matter what they've done, traditional medicine, functional medicine, natural medicine, nothing worked. It was there. And so I opened up and I did a session, and I know we're on a spiritual podcast, so I'll just share with you that I asked him, I said, what happened to you, 50 years ago? I said, you're holding energy not only for yourself, but you're holding this energy in your stomach, in this area, for 80 other people. He said, I was in the Vietnam War, and that was the size of my company. So there was an incident, 80. So he had been holding like this accountability and responsibility for years in his stomach. And so we worked to shift that up and out of the body. And then I partner with, incredible functional medicine doctors. And I said, okay, look, we're working on this energetically. Now I want you to work with a functional medicine doctor to have them figure out what does your body need now that we've pulled this energy up and out to heal. And what he discovered was that because this gentleman, had been on pain medication for so many years, what it was doing was suppressing, basically making too much serotonin in his gut. Now, serotonin's our happy hormone. He was not laughing his butt off. Okay, let me tell you, he was in a lot of pain. So it was producing too much serotonin in his stomach. And what happens in our country anyway, is that doctors prescribe more. Oh, it's not working anymore. We'll give you more. We'll give you a higher dose. We'll give it more, right? So it got to such a point where it was doing more harm than good. So our functional medicine doctor, he's a, pharmacist and naturopathic doctor, amazing man, also in his 70s, who's just been doing this for years, realized he needed something called GABA. That Nutritional Frontiers has a product called Calm Day. And so the GABA element counteracted the serotonin production and helped to lessen the pain, because he was told by doctors he had a phantom pain. It didn't exist. And you could see it on his face. So the coolest thing is, about 3 months after that, okay, he worked with me several sessions. He worked with the other doctor for several sessions. He shows up on my calendar, and I'm like, I wonder what he's doing back here. So he gets on my calendar. His color is great. He's bright. He's happy. He's like sitting up. By the end of the first session, by the way, I meant to mention, he pulled the nasal cannula out and he was sitting up in the chair. He was already feeling better. But anyway, so he shows up on my calendar. I go, what are you doing here? He goes, I feel great. I go, great. What are you doing here? He goes, I want to stay feeling great. And then his wife chimes in. She goes, hey, I just want to tell you, you know what he just did? I go, no, what did he just do? He just got done snow blowing our entire driveway. I was like, wait a minute. This man was restricted to a recliner, had lost his quality of life, was considering suicide, by the way, which I did not bring up, but that was something that came up during the session, because he had lost his quality of life and his purpose. And we were able to shift that mentally, emotionally, and physically. So yeah, was he skeptical at first? Sure. Is he a believer? Heck yeah.
So he's gone from a recliner to he actually moves around.
Yes. And she was like, I got my house husband handyman back. So she was very happy.
And this just shows you when energy is blocked or is not flowing in the right direction, when it is realigned and flows as it should be, everything in your body starts to react normally. Because
Absolutely.
it's not reacting magically, it's reacting normally.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
that we so this is why when the question I said men, they can be skeptical, energy flowing, so
Well, we all can be stubborn. Yeah,
yeah,
we can all be stubborn and stuck in our ways and not want to look within, but truly that is what we all need to do. And then when we take a step back and we look at, oh, that's why this person is in my life. Typically, we learn from the rough edges, not the round corners, right? So sometimes that irritating individual is there, so it shows you what you need to heal within you.
yeah,
Right?
what is inside that needs to come out, and you need
Yes.
to look at and be honest. And it is
Yeah.
about being honest. It's like those 7 questions you gave before, and you had to look at. You have to be really honest and not try to answer them to make yourself feel good or to
Mm-hmm.
make you feel as though you're this best. But it's all about honesty, to facing up to what is going on and what is it you need to look at to correct.
Right. Yep.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So Christina, you're working with this energy, you're working with these men. Now, what are you do? How do people connect with you? How can what classes are you doing? Are you working one to one? Are you doing? Come on, advertise yourself. How do people? It's not just about talking about these things. That they need to hear this and then say, okay, let me try. How do we connect? What do you do?
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much for that. Yes, I have a website called Soul, SOUL, like soul, intelligencemethod.com. And on my website, there's lots of different resources that I provide to people available. I've written a book called Healing Through Soul Intelligence, which is available on Amazon and Kindle and Audible. I also do have one-to-one appointments for someone that's really looking to go deep. I also have a group program that I run once a quarter called SQ for You, because I talk about IQ, EQ, emotional intelligence, and SQ, soul intelligence. So there's SQ for You. I do once a quarter, where you actually get to learn how to do the system for yourself. And then I have a fully online course that's evergreen. You can start it anytime if you want to actually be a neuroenergetic healthcare professional and help other people heal. It's an amazing gift that you can add to, any practice, whether you're just into, healing others. I work with a lot of doctors and psychologists and nurses and nurse practitioners, as well as people who are health coaches or just interested in helping people heal in general. I just, a social worker, like I try and think of all the different types of roles where people are using this system.
Let me just stop you there, because you said doctors. Now, are you finding, because you've been doing this for some time, are you finding that medical MDs, medical doctors are becoming more and more aware and more understanding of these alternative forms of healing, like your soul intelligence?
Yeah, that's the neatest thing is I think that, science is finally catching up to spirituality in a lot of ways. You've got great people out there like Dr. Joe Dispenza that talks about the power of meditation and is documenting it, right? And showing, how
Wonderful.
you can shift internally to affect the external.
Yeah.
Right now in the field of cancer, they are using EMP, which is electromagnetic pulse frequency, to break the outer membrane cell walls of cancer cells and shrinking tumors. That's without chemical intervention like chemo, without radiation where you're burning the good cells and the bad cells. It's actually using frequency to break up the cells. So energy and frequency and science are finally, getting caught up in that world. But I do tend to operate more in the functional and integrative medicine. And that's because they treat the whole person, the whole body holistically. When you work with these types of doctors, they're going to ask you all the lifestyle related questions. And the coolest thing about managing our own health is 95% of it is lifestyle. It's how we manage our stress, what toxicity, what nutrition, what movement. All of those things actually make up about 95% of our ability to manage our own health and well-being.
Yeah, and sorry, you can say.
No, that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Because if you don't look at all those things for stress, which starts it off in the first place, it's not. It's no good going to the healing and you're still doing the same things. It's like keep on doing the same things and you expect different results. It's like trying to clean the water and you keep on pouring dirty water in there.
Absolutely.
So it is about it is about looking at what people are doing, what's causing the situation, and getting them to recognize that, and then helping them to take steps to turn those bad habits around and do things differently, and then think differently, so that the whole situation, as you said, the whole thing can be cleaned. And it's not just something for that particular time, it's a way of life.
Absolutely. And stress comes in a lot of different forms. Another way to look at it is the toxicity. So it's not just, what are the chemicals in your household? Yes, that's something, right? But it's what toxicity is in your life? What are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you watching? I would also, have you look at what relationships are in your life. Like, are they loving? Are they supportive? Or every time you see that person on your cell phone, you just cringe, like, oh my God, it's an energy vampire. I don't have the energy to deal with this person. So it's really kind of taking stock and inventory of all of those things. And yes, what do we put in our body? Just like a computer, garbage in, garbage out. I have the advantage of working also in the field of nutrition and nutraceuticals. I have a company called Nutritional Frontiers, where I'm the chief growth officer for that company. So we do provide high quality supplements, practitioner grade supplements to physicians to help their patients heal quicker with incredible formulations. So I really can help someone heal physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, ultimately.
So you have these Nutri supplements. How does one get hold of them? Do we have to come to your website?
You can go to nutritionalfrontiers.com to see what supplements we have, and then we can direct you to a provider, or you can buy them off of a retail site. So if anybody's interested, just go to my website, soulintelligencemethod.com, talk to me first, and then I can make a referral for you.
Wonderful. Okay, so everybody, you've heard the whole gamut. It's not just one thing. It is about looking at everything and then taking that action. So, Christina, before I say thank you and goodbye, can you leave us with a nugget or two of advice and it's particularly for the men, on what they can do today to take action to try and turn things around and to seek for help as well?
One of the things I tell everyone is self-care isn't selfish, it's sacred. And one of the greatest commandments we were ever given is love one another as you love oneself.
Yeah.
Right. And I think more of us are always focused on the other instead of ourselves. Right. And so, the good thing is that means we naturally want to give. We naturally want to help, which is fantastic. But you can't give and you can't help from an empty cup. And so it's always let's look at what is that relationship showing you, and what's the inner work you need to do so that you can feel your absolute best. You know, you also asked, where can people find me? I neglected to say I'm in a movie coming out soon.
Ooh,
It's called The Pillars of Power. And okay, yep, you're gonna have to write it down. And if you remember the book, The Secret, or the movie, The Secret, this is a 20-year anniversary and celebration of that movie. We've got a number of the original cast members in it, like Dr. Joe Vitale and Marie Diamond and, you know, Lisa Nichols and others. And it's with the pioneers in transformation, along with today's specialists like myself. And we just had the premiere in California a couple weeks ago. It will be out in AMC theaters throughout the United States. And we actually have a premiere coming to Japan. Who knows? We might come to the UK. I promise to keep you posted if I do.
Thank you.
And it will be on streaming services sometime later this year. So hopefully coming to everyone soon.
Great. So everybody's heard, you've got to go to her website, and you're there. You can work individually with people as well, yes?
Yes, happy to.
Right. So no, it's a subject that is dear to my heart at the moment. Men, you need to have the courage to know people care, the courage to know you're loved, the courage to know that you can ask for help and we won't look down. There are those out of that are really working hard to listen and to make others listen, not just to make you listen, to come forward, but for the wider public as well, and for the society. We need to listen and see how we can help our men, as we can with everybody. And it is about listening, having the courage to talk, and having that strength to listen and help. We first have to talk and listen, be willing to listen. We all need to change. I need to change, because as I said before, I'm sure as a mother, I probably said to my son, oh, come on, you're a boy. You're strong enough. Boys don't cry. Not really. We're doing some damage.
I know. Suck it up. Rub some dirt in it. I'm the mother of 2 boys. Fortunately, they're grown men now. But they do remind me that at one moment or another, I might have been a little callous.
Yeah. And we didn't mean to. We're sorry. You know,
do the best you can at the time, right?
We love you dearly. So yeah, we're listening, and we all need to have that conversation. Absolutely. So everybody, I'm saying to Kristine, Genovese, thank you so much for joining us today. And for all those who are listening, I hope you've learned things from this. And please do listen to our men. And you women, we have to look at things differently. We are nurturers. We're leaders. So we need to take that step forward. Okay? So everybody, take care. See you soon. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Bye for now. Oh.